files. So we got the Epstein files. They sent me the packet. No, I'm kidding. And I would be worried if I were Gene Stother. If I did see, that's why someone like me would never get it, because I would just make a bit out of it. Because I would be like, oh man, I'd like tease all these different people that nobody knows, and just start tagging them on Facebook. Be like, because this is what happened. So Pam Bondi said, I've got the Epstein files. We're going to release them Thursday. And they released phase 1 of the Epstein. No, fuck you. Release all of them or don't do anything. Don't tell us you're going to do anything until you're ready to drop all of them. How about that? So they released phase 1. And my question is, how many phases are there going to be? Like, are we going to be like in 2027? It's going to be like, all right, this is phase 89 of the Epstein files. That's my question here. But so instead of just releasing it to the public, they sent it to several conservative influencers and told them to go talk about it on their podcast and radio shows. This pisses me off. Like, this actually upsets me here that they would do this. Well, I mean, first off, side note, if they did send it to me, like if I was one of the people that got the packages, which I'm nowhere near big enough to be, share the show around, maybe I will be someday, but I'm nowhere near big enough to do that. I would absolutely just start fucking with people. I'd like start taking selfies with it, just tagging people, be like, you better watch out at Lavetti Vegas. Just fuck with people. Just getting people, like small, like local people's head. Just mess with them, you know? Like, look at the dirt I've got on Stothert now, you know? That kind of thing. Should we recreate it? Because that's the pick. These guys, and I find this disgusting as well. These influencers are all posing with these Epstein binders. They just say Epstein files with like the official state seal on them. Should we recreate that, but make it Joe Stothert files and post it? Do you think we should do that? Mia's laughing hysterically off camera right now. She just face palmed. We think we could do that? Like, look what I got. Gene Stothert file. Joe Stothert files. Oh my goodness. So this has been a long, tedious affair with these Epstein files. So we heard Kash Patel before he got, actually, let's take it back before the election. Donald Trump said, I'm going to release the Epstein files and the JFK files and the RFK Sr. files if I get elected, right? Kash Patel, before he gets confirmed, says, I will release these files day 1. 5 days go by, and everybody goes, where are these files at? Where are the Epstein files at? You keep promising them. Where are the files? And it's radio silence. And then all of a sudden, Pam Bondi, the AG, says, I've got the files on my desk right now. And then it's radio silence for like another week. And people are going, all right, what's the holdup here? So Pam Bondi comes out Wednesday night and says on Fox News primetime, we're going to release the files tomorrow. And everyone had the exact same reaction to it that I did, which was, yeah, right, I'll believe it when I see it. And sure enough, essentially what they released was, so they made a huge public spectacle of it. They called these conservative influencers into the White House, and they gave them these documents, and they said, okay, go break these to your audience. No, that's not what you should have done. That's not what you should have done. You should have released them publicly on the DOJ's website for anyone to look at. And guess what? These same influencers who talk for a living would have broken it down for people, and they still would have gotten that news out to their audience. This was clout chasing, and it makes me sick. They've strung people along. Guys, I hate to break it to you. The whole administration, from Trump on down to Patel to Bondi, all of you guys, you're not on TV. You're not trying to sell next Saturday's episode. That's not what we're doing. This is serious stuff. I mean, these are minors got trafficked and fucking raped, dude. And you guys are making a TV spectacle out of it, trying to draw in as many clicks and hits on podcasts as you can. It's gross. This aggravates me. And everything that was in quote unquote phase 1 of their 273 phase plan was stuff that was already public record, stuff that we already knew. So they more or less took a bunch of stuff that we already knew, compiled it and organized it, which is nice of them. It's nice to have a reference point, and then build that for a couple of days as if they were, or excuse me, for a day, as if that was going to be this big drop. And it wasn't. And it wasn't. And I will give MAGA credit on this, because MAGA is furious right now at the Trump administration, which is a positive development, because I've seen MAGA split with Trump a couple of times now. And you know, I consider myself conservative, but not MAGA. But I've seen MAGA split with Trump a couple of times on this, and I think that's a positive development here. Because it means that it's a living, breathing organism that can think for itself. They're not just going to go along and defend everything Donald Trump does. Now, I'm sure we'll get angry comments from some idiots that will defend everything, but everyone has that, especially the Democrats, because that's the reality here is, well, if Kamala Harris won, number one, she would have buried this and never talked about it. But had Kamala Harris won and promised to release the files and then done something like this, the Democrats would have been defending her, talking about how we don't understand how investigations work and yada, yada, yada. MAGA's not doing that. You don't see a unified front defending Trump from his base, and I like that. We need that. We need to remember what I told you when he won the election, the day he won the election. This wasn't going to be Trump ball washing hour. We need that from every single one of you. We need to hold our leaders accountable, because the Democrats don't do it. And for a long time, Republicans didn't do it either. And you saw where that got us. So we need to keep the pressure on. We need to keep the pressure on Trump, on Bondi, on Patel, all of them, to follow through on this promise, because this is not a fucking game. This pisses me off. Seriously. This pisses me off that they're using people who were raped and abused and trafficked and kidnapped to clout chase with, to try to get media attention on themselves. Like, these theatrics are going to bite them in the ass. This is not good. This is the stuff we're used to from the Democrats. This type of lying and deception. I did not vote for Donald Trump for him to come out and act like the last 4 years we just saw with transparency. I did not vote for him for that. I would have stayed home if I thought that Donald Trump was going to do the same shit that we saw for 4 years. And to be fair to him, he hasn't on everything. But this one is. This is the shit we were used to from Biden and Obama and Bush. This is more of the same. I don't like this at all. Say what you want about Matt Gaetz, but you bet your ass they would have got released with him had he been confirmed as AG. I mean, this was a golden opportunity that was squandered. This was a botch job. There's no way around it with these files. Because remember what I talked about, the 80-20 thing? The Democrats have positioned themselves by labeling Donald Trump. Well, number one, it was an opportunity squandered because we deserve to know who these people are, right? But the Democrats have put themselves in an awkward position. They've labeled Trump Hitler, therefore anything he does is the actions of Hitler, right? So they have to oppose anything and everything Hitler does. So Donald Trump had a golden opportunity to release a list of people who were who were involved in the sex trafficking of minors and secretly pulling the strings in this country, political and business elites. And when he released that list, everyone would have been talking about it. It would have been the number one story in the world. The Democrats would have had to make a statement on it. And many of them, not all of them, but many of them would have been forced into a corner where they had to defend the Epstein clients. I mean, you're talking not even 80-20, 95-5. Not even that, probably 99-1, honestly, when you're talking in terms of support. But the reason, there's two things that irritate me about this. And there's two things that bother me here about the way this was handled. So, like I said, before the election, Donald, and if you were watching impartially like we were, you weren't 100% certain that he was going to win, but you were feeling pretty good about a month up to the election. Donald Trump said, if you elect me, I'm going to release the files. after he got elected, he again reiterated, I'm going to release the files once we take office. He takes office. Kash Patel gets nominated as head of FBI. He says, if you nominate me, can you stop that? He says, if you nominate me, I'm going to release the files within the first 24 hours. Now, a lot of people see this as transparency, which is fine, but you also have to look at this from a strategic vantage point, right? Nobody expected you to release these files. Nobody voted for you for that reason on its own. But you can't very well run a campaign talking about how deep the corruption is rooted in these intelligence agencies and then give them 3 warnings about what you're going to do before you take office. I mean, that's what Trump did. He gave these people who were still running the show up until January, he gave these people 3 warnings about what they were going to do with these files when they got there. They had over 2 months to purge, delete, and sabotage every record they could with both Epstein and JFK. And the reason I know that is because Tuesday night, several FBI employees were arrested for destroying information pertaining to the Epstein and JFK files. So that shit's gone. We don't know what's in there, but whatever it is gone, and we will likely never know what it was, and those people will never be held to those people will never be brought to justice. Now, those agents should sit in a prison cell for the rest of their lives, at best. I mean, that's treason, what they've done there. At best. With that said, they botched this. You don't tell your enemy when you're going to make your move. That's what Biden did with the Taliban when he announced they were going to pull out of Afghanistan. And guess what happened? The Taliban was like, cool, we'll be ready to go the next day. And they took over. 20-some years wasted because Biden told them when he was going to make his move. If you're going to do it, get into office and do it. Don't go out screaming from the rooftops that you're going to do it. Because, guys, at best, this is incompetent. At worst, this is intentional. It's like they were intentionally tipping them off so that stuff would get destroyed, knowing they wouldn't have to release it. And there's a couple reasons why. I'm going to go into the big one that I think in a little bit here. But you don't scream it from the mountaintop. My honest opinion, I think this was about, just like with what we saw over the last week, this was about the spectacle. This was about clout-chasing theatrics. How do we get as much attention on us as possible? Ooh, Epstein files. There's a buzzword. Let's rile people up with that. Without even thinking about what might happen behind the scenes over the next 2 months before you take office. My guess is when Trump said that in, what was it, October? They started shredding files that day. So who knows what all's been covered up that we'll never know now. The second reason this pisses me off is that Patel said, again, it's the issue I've had with this administration a couple times that I keep telling you is going to bite us in the ass. Patel said, I will release the files within 24 hours of being approved. Well, a week went by before they released anything, and it wasn't the full drop. Now, they still released it, yes, but Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, you guys have worked in criminal justice for a long time. You guys understand that that's impossible. That's a promise you cannot keep. Just like saying you're going to lower grocery prices rather than saying we're going to get to a point where wage growth once again outpaces inflation. Just like saying I'm going to end the war in Ukraine in a day. Not going to end. Obviously, the war didn't end in the first day of that Trump took office. He's still going to get it ended, it looks like. He's still going to seal the deal over there and get a peace treaty struck. But still, I mean, it's people. You give people ammunition they can use on you. Even, like I said, Kamala Harris won. Absolutely no chance that war gets negotiated to an end. None. The Russia-Ukraine war wages on for years. We probably have NATO boots on the ground there by the end of 2026. Donald Trump's done a fantastic job negotiating. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I have no qualms with the way Donald Trump has handled the Russia-Ukraine situation. I think he's done a great job over there. But why did you have to tell people you'd get it done in a day? You could have just said, I'll get it negotiated. These people want to keep antagonizing Russia. They want to keep starting wars all over the world. You didn't have that with me. Let me go in there. I'll take care of it. I'm a deal maker. Why would you say this oversimplification shit is going to cause problems? Why would you come out and say, I'm going to get this done in a day? Why? You're Kash Patel. Like I said, you knew that you were not, there was no way in hell you were going to be able to get those documents out within 24 hours because odds are there are hundreds, if not thousands of pages of victims, people who were A, minors at the time, or B, may not be minors anymore, but now they have jobs and families and friends and everything, and they don't want that stuff to come out. So you're going to have to go in and redact all these names and check in with victims and all that. That's the responsible thing to do, at least. So he knew that 24 hours was completely implausible, and he promised it anyway. Stop oversimplifying things to sell them to people. Stop it. Because you're providing ammunition. Oh, Trump, why didn't you start the war in Ukraine? Or why didn't you stop the war in Ukraine in a day like you promised you would? Why are grocery prices higher? Yeah, inflation's been taken care of, and wage growth is outpacing grocery prices, but bacon's still higher than it was. Eggs are still higher than they were when you took office at a way slower rate than they were under Biden. But still, Kash Patel, why did you wait more than 24 hours to release it like you promised? Who was on that list that you were covering for? And that's what we're going to get to. There's two ways to look at this. Number one, and I think they can all honestly play into each other, but they're clout chasing. And they fucked up and didn't realize how many victims' names they were going to have to redact from it. Or number two, and here's what I think, there are a lot of ties between Jeffrey Epstein and Israel. And this administration is pro-Israel to a point it hurts. That's no secret. From the president to the Secretary of Defense to the Secretary of State, they're a little too pro-Israel for me. I don't have anything against Israel as a country. I support its right to exist. But they're a little too Israel. Not Don Bacon pro-Israel, to where you probably like Israel more than the United States. But the Israel shit gets a little creepy for me with this administration. So Jeffrey Epstein's got a couple of different ties to Israel. Number one, there was a guy named Ehud Barak who was a good friend of Epstein. He was a former prime minister and IDF general over in Israel. He was frequently seen at Epstein's properties, received financial investments from Epstein. He claimed he only visited him for legitimate business purposes and, distanced himself after the charges. You go ahead and do with that what you will. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, and also another close associate of Epstein, was a British media tycoon with ties to Israeli Mossad intelligence. He was accused of being an Israeli spy and reportedly facilitated Israeli intelligence operations. Also, you've got more speculation that Epstein, there's been quite a bit there, that Epstein himself was a Mossad agent coming over here, compromising politicians and business interests in the United States to get them to take a stronger pro-Israel stance. So what they do is they get you on video with the young girl and they go, okay, so how are you going to vote on that aid to Israel again, Congressman? I mean, it really is insane the amount of influence Israel has in this country. The fact that AIPAC is a thing, that you can form a political action committee to raise money on the behalf of the interests of a foreign government is insane to me. And we just let that slide. We wouldn't let that slide for any other country. Could you imagine Saudi Arabia PAC? So that's my theory, is that there were maybe a few too many roads leading back to Israel in this Epstein drop, and they want to make sure that all of those roads are blocked off and covered up before they go live with all of this, which I don't like. Listen, guys, if our so-called greatest ally was trafficking kids to compromise American politicians and business owners, don't you think that's something we should know about? I feel like that would be a good thing we know about before we send them another however many $1 billion. This wouldn't be the first time Israel's fucked around on us. Look up the USS Liberty, where they attacked one of our ships because we witnessed them committing a war crime. Yeah, that happened. They bombed our carrier in the ocean. They did it. Our greatest ally, though. Anna Paulina Luna, the congresswoman from Florida, the head of the classified document release committee in Congress, stated, I nor the on Twitter. You got to pull her tweet up real quick here. Yeah, that one. Nope. It should just be under the lead topic. She said, I nor the task force were given or reviewed the Epstein documents being released today. A New York Post story just revealed that the documents will simply be Epstein's phone book. This is not what we or the American people asked for, and a complete disappointment. Get us the information we asked for. Yeah, so it's the stuff we already knew about. And before we go spiking the football about flight logs when those come out, keep in mind there are two prominent members of this administration that were on those flight logs. Flight logs don't necessarily mean guilt. If they do, President Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have quite a bit of explaining to do. That's all I'll say. Because a lot of people took that plane. And they didn't all go to the island. We want to know who went to the island. More importantly, we want to know who went back to the island. Because there's a chance people got brought over there, went, what the fuck is this? And never came back. I want to know who took 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trips to Epstein's island. Those are the ones I want to know. But we're just going to get his phone numbers, which we already had, his phone book. And that's not including what's redacted in it. So phase 1, hope you all enjoyed it. Mia, do you have anything you want to add about phase 1 of the Epstein files?
Very disappointing.
But you kind of knew this was coming. You said it when I said the Epstein files were coming out. You were like, I'll believe it when I see it. We kind of figured this was going to be the case. I braced myself for disappointment, but I didn't think it would be done in such a shameful way. That's what pisses me off about this the most, is the way they went about doing it. I kind of figured when they said we're going to release, they didn't, to be fair, they didn't say that all of the Epstein files were coming out Thursday. They said they were going to release some of them. When I heard that, I assumed it was going to be what we got, which was basically just an organized list of everything we already knew, which is more or less what they did. Because his phone book doesn't mean shit. What I don't like is the way they're going about doing it, like it's some type of, limited series on Netflix. So it's phase 1. You got to wait for phase 2 comes out next Saturday on so-and-so's podcast to get him a bunch of hits. That is so shameful. It's like, I've told you guys a little bit what my background is outside of this. I won't go too far into it. But as someone who has combated human trafficking for a living, this is fucking disgusting to me. Like, this really upsets me that they made a spectacle out of this. This is repulsive, honestly. The way they did this. The way they tried to sell this like it's some type of cheap entertainment and generate clicks to people's accounts on Twitter and their podcasts and their radio shows and their YouTube channels. That is, and if you can't see how fucking gross that is, you need to take a step back and reevaluate your humanity. It is so gross. So gross. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.